on, Kay, help me out. Gotta look good if we're gonna record. Even book club, right? We gotta bring the sexy back, right? Oh, well, my friends, welcome to Sanctuary Online, to our monthly book club, the most loyal, I think, thing that we do around here. And I'm excited to hand you off tonight to a new experiment. Cheryl and Ken are going to co-host the book club, and they worked together this afternoon. I think they were just both trying to get out of the heat personally and get into the air conditioning, but one more excuse to hang out together and prepare for tonight with some great conversation, some great questions. So that's my entire role. I think it's 27 seconds. So hope you have a great conversation, and I'm gonna keep packing. So if you see me going in and out, Cheryl and I are leaving to go to Sanctuary North starting on Friday morning. And so every spare moment we're packing and packing this and packing that. So I'm going to be packing while you have conversation. I will listen and try not to butt in, even though it's always a very rigorous conversation. I love you. Cheryl, Ken, I'm on mute.
Hey. I want to remind you, first of all, that the book is called The Secret Life of Albert Entwistle. Everybody got it? Did Ken leave again? Shoot. Because he was going to make the first comment, and I'll just wait and let him make that comment because it can go over. But I'm not going to wait for him. I'm just saying.
Run 90 minutes, Cheryl.
Ken, are you back? Are you there?
It's like he's entering.
Yeah, you're there.
You
Okay. Do you want to make your first comment before we get started?
Yeah, I can't see anybody, but yeah, I just wanted to let everyone know, in case you didn't, that one of the members of this group, Eric Taylor, passed away a couple of weeks ago. We've all known Eric, for months. He's been active with the book club and with a lot of other activities here at Sanctuary in the Woods. Tom and I have known Eric for over 40 years.
Wow.
Eric and his partner, Jerry, were very faithful members of MCC in North Hollywood when I was the pastor there for a little over 10 years. And his partner, Jerry Heron, was an U.S. Olympic ice skater. And until an accident made it impossible for him to skate anymore. And then Jerry became a very, very well-known wardrobe person in Hollywood. He was the lead wardrobe person for the TV series Little House on the Prairie, and for several movies. He was well-known in MCC for making beautiful vestments and paraments for different churches. I still have a couple of beautiful vestments that Jerry made for me. Jerry was a little older, and he passed away a few years ago. And Eric continued, his life and his career in the banking business. But we were really saddened to hear this. But Eric passed away a couple of weeks ago. We just wanted everybody to know that.
I'm very sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
Prayers go out to you, Ken, and the entire sanctuary community.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Anybody else before we get on to our thing? All right. Well, thank you, Kay, for this great book. It was a fabulous recommendation and a really nice summer book. I think it was a page turner for everybody. Just kept reading it and reading it. And so that is actually my first question is, what was it about this book that kept you reading it?
Well, somebody spoke about the end, and I won't say too much, but I started reading it and I thought, oh dear, here we go with the simple boy meets boy real young, and then their lives separate. And this is going to be just an old, tired book. Same old story. And what was fun for me is that the middle of the book meant much more to me than the beginning or the end, because it was so much about developing community. And I've been involved in that for years. and watched people, who knew how to do it, like Ken, for example, and other people, just developing a community, and then seeing someone like our main character here learn how important community is. So I enjoyed the book. As you said, you want to keep reading because you didn't know what he was going to do next.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed it very much, especially in the middle.
Thanks, Cynthia. And that's a real important comment about community. And I think we'll probably get into that a little more. Does anybody have any other comments about that? What kept you reading it?
I think for me, the characters were so interesting, and I found Albert, in some ways I could relate with Albert on certain things. So for me, that kept me going. Plus, it was so nice to read a book where you do like the characters in it, and there's positive things. Albert is, coming out of his shell. People are accepting him. I mean, there's so much negativity out there in a sense that it was kind of refreshing to read something that was positive.
Yeah, thank you, Rose. Anybody else?
It was, for me, it was all about Albert, but he had me on edge. And I was, without reading forward, because sometimes I'll jump ahead and read like a chapter or two ahead of where I really am. But he was so gripping in his feelings and his sorrow and his like like something was propelling him, and I couldn't put it down. Like, I think I read it in 4 days because I just was so with him in the moments. And I just wanted him to be so victorious. So it was a really great choice. Thank you, Kay.
Yeah, thank you.
Excellent book. Well, good.
But the side characters also were the girl. It's more than a month since I've read a couple of other things. Can't remember the woman's name, but who was in the relationship with the other guy. But she was fascinating too. They were all equally fascinating journeys, and how they did all come together. I thought it was just really, I was on edge the whole time, wondering how it was all going to work out.
Yeah. Ken, do you
And
have something?
I honestly thought, to be honest, he was going to have to come to terms with the loss of not.
Yes.
Oh, spoiler alert. Of not.
I already know the ending.
Oh, okay. I just really, all along, I thought, oh my gosh, he's going to go through all of this and it's all going to be so good. And that'll be his supports when he has to come to terms with not finding him. And I like, that just choked me right up that he might not, so that had me turning the pages.
Yeah. All right, Ken.
He's so frozen. Can't hear him.
Yeah, we can't hear you.
Are you in the same place? Can he come to you and be on the same screen as you, Cheryl?
I might be able to go over there and do it. If I take my
Maybe if Ken turns off his video, he would get a better signal.
no, let me just go over there and I'll take the hotspot over there and I'll turn it on.
Yes, there you go, Ken.
Yeah.
Why don't you let me take my hotspot over there?
To him?
Can you?
Joe, you're hosting and recording.
Yeah. So you don't do that. Let me go over to Ken. Ken, you can go ahead and continue if you can. And if not, I'll be right
Okay.
over there. Okay.
Robotic. And we lost you again right at the end, Ken.
Cheryl's coming to you to be in the same room on her phone or whatever.
I'm sorry.
Carol, since you're still reading, what was the woman's name who's Chris. Chris was her fiance or relationship. What was the woman's name?
Oh, can't remember. Rose, do you remember? You gotta turn your microphone on.
The African-American woman.
Rose, you're on mute.
I think her name is Nikki,
Yes.
and her boyfriend was Jamie,
Nicole.
Jamie, that's it.
and Renee is the little girl.
Thank you. That's what happens when I read fast and intensely. And then it was a month and a half ago, and I had to wait for it in the library. I was so afraid it wasn't going to come in before before the time. And then I read so fast and have since read other things. So thank you for that.
Is that room really small that Cheryl was in? I mean, she had to like duck to not hit the ceiling.
Joby, you're muted.
Rose, that is our bedroom. We live in I don't know if you know that we live in a tiny house, literally. We live in 399 square feet, Cheryl and I do.
Wow.
And so that is normally, like, I'm in what would be the bedroom, but we turned this into an office, my office, because I do so much consulting online and on Zoom. And so it has to be kind of quiet. And anyway, upstairs, what you see in Cheryl's is a 4.5 foot tall space that is for storage, and it fits our bed, but no ceiling fan because we'd be dead.
Wow.
And you can actually, when you're laying in bed, you can put your foot on the ceiling. And Cheryl wanted an office up there, so I got her an office. We made her little children's chair. I mean, when you sit down, it's decent. You don't know when you're seated that it's only 4.5 feet high. Like a rowing machine also fits up there because you can row because you're seated. And then when you pull up, my head, no problem. Cheryl's head, like against the ceiling every time she comes back.
Wow. That's great.
So, yeah, we learned to live in a very, very tiny place. Kelly, you've been here. How big our house would fit in your living room, right? Kelly, you can't. Kelly,
She's
you're
muted.
and we can only see your eyes.
And she's muted.
Because
Can you
I was
unmute every?
I was hiding my face
Why are you hiding your face?
because I'm eating my
Oh,
dinner. We
very
had to
handy.
take Pat dinner, so we didn't get dinner until late.
Yep.
There, but I like that room upstairs. It's actually pretty big.
It's a
And
big
it's
room.
not tall, but
Yeah,
it's
it
a
goes
big room.
2/3 of our house, and then the rest is a cathedral in tiny house language ceiling. So it's all beautiful out there. It's all windows.
It feels way nicer. It may not be more square feet, but it feels way nicer, and more sturdy than a mobile home or something, you know?
Oh yeah, it's definitely
Okay,
sturdier.
can you hear me now?
Oh, yes.
Too.
Good.
Okay.
All right. Enough of
Just-
bunny trails. You are back in charge, you two. Cheryl and Ken, we can hear you.
We're trying to get back on the screen so we can see people.
It's there.
Well, we can see you two.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
very good.
Let's see, this one go- okay.
Cheryl, just pull a chair in from the dining room.
Okay, I can see one person now, Joby.
Hi, Ken.
The most important.
No,
Can you hear me?
actually, Carol, I'm
Yes, we can hear you.
We can all hear you.
Yeah, we can all see and hear you.
Okay,
Okay.
you can go ahead, and I don't know why it's done. I'm used to it.
Okay, hold on just a minute. I'm sorry.
Well, it's good thing it's family night, right? Good friends and family that has, although the
Absolutely.
I probably should have paused the recording on this a while ago, shouldn't I?
We need to
Yes.
Yeah.
Here.
Well,
Can you
Yeah,
edit? I don't
that's it.
think you can, or can you?
okay, let's just leave it
Yeah.
like that, okay?
Yeah,
Yeah,
just
we
leave
can.
it like that.
Okay. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes,
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, we're just we don't have a full screen, but we're gonna leave it just like this because every time we touch something else, we lose everybody, so. Okay, so I missed the whole beginning conversation where everybody was talking about, what kept you reading the book. I came in right when you were talking about what was the girl's name, Nicole, when you were talking about the young
Yeah.
woman. So let me begin with you've heard
I
this.
just want to tell you things Cynthia said was that she liked the middle part because it was all
Oh,
about
no.
community.
Oh, okay, that's good. Yeah, that's good. Okay, we've all heard the expression, you never forget your first love.
Right.
And that relationship between Albert and George when they are teenage boys,
Mhm.
is so intense. It is so
Yes.
passionate.
Yes.
It is so romantic. And I was just wondering I had that same thing as a teenage boy, but I wondered if anybody else had that. Did anybody else have that first relationship that you just were never able to uh, forget in some way? Am I the only one?
Well, I had it first with a straight man. I didn't know what love is. The hormones were pumping. And and just remember feeling so excited, And then later, my first female lover, I know what you mean, Ken, because she was all for years, just way up, in my thinking. And like you said, you just couldn't. And then it was interesting because she came to Chicago and looked me up, and it was kind of cool. And she, though, had tried to live, she had a PhD and was teaching in college, which I would have expected. But she had tried to continue to live her life very closeted. And I had taken a different route, of course. And what I saw was how, my immediate, instead of having the fun, I still had the fond memories, but it helped me realize that life does change you. And that she had not, she was so nervous about everything. And I thought, wow, I'm so glad I didn't take that path. But I do
Oh,
know
yes.
what you mean about that burning desire. I remember getting on Greyhound buses to go see her and stuff I would never have done.
Yeah, I think there's a level of passion, in
Yes.
those first relationships that just kind of brands them into your mind and your heart, and
Yep.
regardless of how old you may be, there's just something about it. Do you know how did that relationship eventuate, Cynthia? Did you continue to stay in touch with her, or when you realized you were on different paths, did you just go different ways?
Well, she met Darlene and I met a woman. Again, they were very mysterious about exactly whether they lived together or not. I'm pretty sure they did not live together, but so we stayed in touch a little bit. Right now, I don't know exactly where she is, but I saw something in a Unitarian literature one time that is on some website that made me think she may have transgendered and become a male now. I tried to
really?
follow that through, but that was fascinating to me too. And so yeah, so as I said, she may have, after, it was one of these worried about parents issues and so on, family. Maybe after her parents passed, she really made a complete transition to something
Really?
else.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. I met a boy who moved into about 5 houses down from us, and when we were in the 10th grade. His name was Lyndon, and he and I just immediately connected, and we were together until the middle of our senior year in high school, and his family moved from Pine Bluff, Arkansas, where we lived, to Houston. And we thought we were going to die. I mean, we just thought we were going to die because we were going to be separated. We talked about running away together, to be able to stay together. And so it was just that fire and passion and just that obsession almost, with another person. And then when I got married 2 years later to a woman, he came back to Arkansas and was a groomsman in my wedding.
Oh,
And then when he got married the next year, I went to Louisiana and performed his wedding.
Oh,
wow.
wow.
But then we just kind of grew apart, over the
Mhm.
years. And so it did wane, but I'll never get over the intensity, of that initial passion. Just as a kid, it was childish in a way,
Mhm.
but it was very, very real to me then.
Yes, mine was too very real.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's just go back to that place about where you were talking about, Cynthia, about community. And at one point, Albert says that. He says, well, now I'm part of a community.
Yes.
And then later, now I'm part of 2 communities, right? And so why does it matter to be part of a community? Why is that important?
Well, it's such a richer life. And I was just talking with a friend, actually, a few minutes ago. She's in New Braunfels, and I hope sometime to visit her. And she and her partner of 18 years, the partner asked for a divorce, so she went back to Texas to be with her relatives. But we were both talking about being single, kind of unexpectedly, me through death and her through, and how you have to kind of recreate your community because it's not the stable thing that you had for so many years. And it causes you, she said how intellectually I've invited her on this, she should come on this, but I said, why don't you go down, find out what's going on in your local library? There's often, groups and movies, and she said, that's a great idea. So, I guess what I'm saying is the community provides us with so many different things, and our communities change as we move along in life.
It's funny because I thought his Albert's postal route was his community because he dropped off letters and he would
Yes.
speak to the people, but he didn't have an awareness of being in community,
Right.
until he really acknowledged who he was, and that made all the difference. So
I think that's it's almost like it's not real until you're real. The first 30 years of my life I spent, in the closet, just totally closeted. And so and when I look back on that, it doesn't feel as real as everything that's happened to me since I came out, and have been a real person. Then my life, everything around me became real.
Yeah, that's an interesting point.
I just finished another book, which I would highly recommend later, but there was a pivotal point where Albert had the awareness of Georgina being arrested and him not. And it's that, and in the book I'm reading, she has the pivotal awareness of not covering for her mother and saying that she was her sister. She said she was mother, and she got put in a separate line in Auschwitz. And but that pivotal moment of awareness where potentially he lived and he didn't know if Georgina had, or really what had happened to her or him. And that started the whole, once he had that real awareness of himself, and then he was going to come out and to his surprise, he was way more accepted than he ever thought he was going to be, because he wasn't by his own dad. Right. So I think that was what kept me reading, because I just wanted him to, he was doing so much work without knowing it. You know what I mean?
That part though was sort of reminded me that I'm certainly, well, I'm of the same age bracket he is, but my coming out was in such a different period that
Yes.
you never knew who was going to embrace you and who was just going to literally physically turn on your back.
Mhm.
I had people turn around and walk away from me when I came out to them.
Yes.
So I think that's
You know, that brings up the whole thing about passing privilege. You know that some people
yes.
can pass and others can't. And you know the part of in this story, Albert could pass. Nobody knew he was gay. You know, but George couldn't pass. George was just a kind of a film little sissy boy, and he just couldn't pass. And so it raises the question, you know, which is harder? You know, I had passing privilege. I realized that when I came out at age 30, you know, everybody said to me, "You're the last person we would ever have thought of as gay," because I could pass. But I saw people all around me, you know, when I came out, and I realized they must have known all of your life, you know, and so is it harder for me in terms of lying and hiding, or is it harder for them because of the discrimination and even violence and so forth that those people. So did any of you, when you think about your own, if you're an LGBTQ person, did you have passing privilege?
I
Could you
wanted to
pass?
I got up to show you something. Can you see this?
Oh, yeah.
That's you, Mary?
No, that is
Yes.
me. This is me in 1969, somewhere along in there, teaching at Wayne State and being in the choir of the Methodist Church and spotting this guy. Oh, he's gay, and we became great friends. And George Murphy is the one that took me to MCC in 1972.
Oh my God.
Gosh, yes.
And we
And
stayed
you were
friends.
sure passing in that picture.
And then he passed away 2 years ago, but he came to visit
Yeah.
Darlene and I at least 4 times a year, and I went out to San Diego, and we stayed very close. But I thought
Yeah,
when
he
you
went on
Cynthia,
one
is
of our
that-
cruises. He went on one of our sanctuary cruises
yes,
with
but
us.
I
this
was
is
just gonna
what
ask
we
if
had.
that was the George, yeah.
Yeah, but this is what we
Yeah.
had to do. This is, you know, we did it for each other.
For
His
sure.
partner, I didn't, I
Yeah.
was have a partner at the time, and his partner at the time said to me one time, thought this was very interesting. John said, "Now, Cynthia, either of us would ever ask you to do something, you know, for us like that if." By the way, George was a high school counselor, so he was chaperoning the dance. That's why we were there.
Mhm.
And he said, "Unless we thought so much of you and we want it to be fun for you also." And I just smiled and said, "Oh, anything we all do together is fun for me." But yes, but you did a lot. You're right. Just that was to pass. That was, you know, and he kept this picture, and then I had it, and yeah, so that was all just, you know, to pass. And it gave you a sense of, because you were so afraid of what was going to happen next. I was anyway, because you could
Yeah.
lose your job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your family, everything.
Everything. Yep. You could lose everything.
When if you came out at some point in your life, were you surprised by the way people reacted, or did the people react the way you thought they would?
Some friends reacted the way I thought they would. Others, I had no idea that they had kind of a deep-seated homophobia, you know. Well, it's okay for somebody else, but not you. You know, you're my cousin, or you're my, you know, it's okay for, we're not against it, but oh, no, no, no. And that was always bothersome to me, and still is to this day, when my cousin, who I love so much and has helped me so much with my sister with her dementia, now she's in hospice, but Don keeps calling certain people spinsters. And I know these women he's talking about, they're lesbians. But to Don, they're spinsters. So I just laugh. But yeah, the other thing that I really liked about the book presenting Albert, the time where they presented this need for the woman with the son that was so ill to go to Disney, and the way
Yeah.
his love of her and the son and the community just opened up his wallet. And that's something I have seen in MCC Church happen to most of us,
Mhm.
actually,
Yeah.
where we start out
Yeah.
counting our money, being concerned what's going to happen. And then I've watched other people too that you thought were really kind of incapable of giving much. Not, I don't even mean financially, but of themselves or whatever. And you see their doors just open. That's a beautiful
Mhm.
feeling. And that was well written up in the book, I thought.
Mhm.
Yeah. Mhm. Carol, you had your hand up.
Oh, the topic previously, when you're talking about passing, when I was much younger, I had very short hair, and I was told, you look like a boy, and to grow your hair long because you're too dykish. And so that was the impetus for me to grow my hair long. I mean, now that I have my hair long, it's fine. I do like it, but that is why I initially grew my hair out, is because a lot of times they would confuse me with a boy, whatever.
Mhm.
You know, it brings a memory back to me. One of my very good friends, her two best friends, gay men in partnership, they've been together for 40 years. He was one of the senior counselors in the Toronto school system, and Rick was the president of a Canadian company. And Jan, my good friend, used to call herself, I hate the term, but I'll tell you it anyway, a fag hag, because she went to all of the parties. She went to every Christmas party. She went to every function with Rick and or Bob, two separate events, all through her 20s and 30s, because they couldn't be together, and they feared for their jobs. They weren't at the time married, and she was constantly bouncing between the two. They were her best friends, and they were traumatized by the idea of going to one another's parties or doing anything like that. They were still very closeted, even though they'd been together for years by that time.
Mhm.
And finally,
Mhm.
Jan herself got married, and that ended. But that's how I knew them, because she was always going to events with them, passing, using that
Mhm.
word, passing as their partner.
Mhm.
I went, speaking of community,
Yeah.
I went, well, actually yesterday to a Pride event here in my area, Little Three Oaks, Michigan, which is 700 or 800 people. And it was a fundraiser for the Gay Center up in St. Joe,
Mm.
Benton Harbor. And it was intended Chasten Buttigieg, because he and Pete are now citizens of Michigan. So he was there, and we all got a copy of his book. And his book, by the way, is this next second book is written for young adults to teach them about coming out and how safe it can be. But he stood there in front of all of us and said, "Isn't it wonderful to be in a small town, and there's 200 of us here today, and to feel safe and accepted and surrounded by love?" And then he mentioned, he said, coming in here, of course, I saw the one house in town, and everyone laughed. I haven't seen this house, but I guess it's got all these hate signs all over it, and no queers in our town, and blah, 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 blah. And he said, all I know is that I was coming to an event where 200 people didn't feel that way. So he said, it's wonderful to have the choice now to be here and be in this setting.
Mhm.
And there was a lot of support. When I say 200 people, it was not all LGBT. It was, I know there was a couple there, they own a hotel. There were other couples that own other businesses, just supporting the LGBT community.
Mhm. Mhm.
So
Yeah, the
but-
I
role
think
of
he
the
was,
allies, our allies, straight
Yes.
people who
Yes.
who support us, and that's been a huge part of when I came out. Just about everybody in my life. I mean, you were there when I came out,
Yes.
Cynthia, in
Yes.
1974, and my family rejected me. My father literally told me it was easier for him to think of me as dead than gay. And so, that was the end. I never spoke to him again after that. All my family were deeply religious, and so they just all totally rejected me. But my college roommate, a straight guy, just was right there beside me the whole time and just totally supported me. And so I think we can never underestimate the role of our allies, in the straight allies who stand with us, in the importance of being able to come out, because I've known people who didn't come out until they were in their 80s, who literally hid and pretended and lied until they were in their 80s. And you can just imagine how hard that is, and how much of life, of authenticity and real life they've given up, in order to do that. And so just the ability to be able to come out and be real, and especially in this book. I mean, Cheryl and I were talking about this today. I can't ever remember reading a book where every single relationship and every single conflict that got described in the book had a happy ending.
Yes.
Everything in this book had a happy ending.
By the way, folks, as a footnote, I must tell you that Ken arrived in Chicago with his Volkswagen and his clothes, and he had no place to live. And the vice moderator of the board invited him to move in with him. And I said to Bob Barber later, well, what is that like? And he said, it's wonderful to be around this handsome man and all these people running around trying to meet Ken. So Ken is a happily married man. I knew him before.
Yes, you did. Yes. When I was a mess.
But Bob was very good to you, and I know you could ease out a little easier. You could come out with that support.
Yeah. Well, let me ask it. We touched on it a little bit in talking about George not really being able to pass. And so it didn't matter how fearful he was of anything. It didn't make any difference. He had to go through with that life, as Georgina. But Albert had that same fear, and he was able to pass. And so the fear probably drove him into, well, let me just pass. But here he is. He's so fearful, and yet he so wants to be with George, and he's stuck in that space. And I just wonder, have you ever had fear stop you from doing something that you really, really wanted to do? You're all very courageous. You just do it anyway.
Well, I think sometimes it's taken me longer to do something that I was afraid to do. But especially now that I'm alone, sometimes I hesitate. But if you rationally think something through, you usually find a way to go, to do whatever it is. So that's part of again, feeling, I think, sense of help and community, that you can try new things and be safe.
Cheryl, do you think it was fear? I was going to say, was it fear or a naivete that he was sort of living in a gap for such a long time, not really knowing himself and not knowing what his life might be like? I didn't, it was more, I felt sorry. What was the word? I felt sad because it seemed like he was grieving all that lost time, but it didn't feel like fear to me. So I'm having trouble about the fear part.
I just was thinking about the very beginning when George said, let's just run away. Come with me. Come with me. And he said, no, I can't, and that's what I felt like it was based on fear.
Oh, okay. And yeah, I do recall he was afraid of his father for sure.
Sure.
And being ostracized as you experienced, Ken, like just being so rejected by his father, but just his alone life. I guess he conceded his alone life for such a long time. I was so happy that he would start to reach out. And amazing that 65 forced retirement really started the whole ball rolling. Like the fear maybe of what
Isn't
life
that
was really
funny?
going to be like. Maybe you're right. Yeah, you're right. The fear of, there was more fear than, I just felt there was such a sadness and loss and grief in that lost time that I didn't think he had time to be afraid, really, but I think you're right.
Mhm. You know, what the author of this book said, his main reason for writing it was to show how much better conditions are for sexual
Mm.
minority people now than they used to be. And he
Uh-huh.
wrote the book like 1 year ago. The book is like 1 year old.
Oh,
And already when I heard that, I thought, I wonder if he would even say the same thing today, because you know, the tide is turning, and it's turning against us right now.
Yes.
You know, it's getting very, very dangerous again to be
Mhm.
a sexual minority person of any kind. And you know, the right wing has found their target among trans people, but they're targeting trans people more than just about anybody else. But they're still after us too. And we're waiting for the Supreme Court to hand down a major decision any day now, you know, about LGBTQ rights. And I really would have thought we were beyond all of this, you know, but we're not beyond all of this. It's getting very, very dangerous again, you know, to be an out gay person in a lot of places in this country. So I kind of wonder, you know, the book almost became kind of Pollyanna to me,
Yes, it did.
because of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Well, let me just ask a question about the ending. What if George had never gotten back to Albert, or he told Albert he wasn't interested in getting back together?
mm.
What if that was the ending to the book? What do you think?
I thought it would have been more realistic.
Yes.
I'm serious. It was
Yeah.
like,
Me too.
Yeah.
oh, well, this
Yeah.
is a fairy tale, Cynthia. Remind yourself it's a fairy tale.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's what I expected the ending to be all the way through the book.
Yeah, me too. I didn't expect him to get back with him. And
Is there
just
still value? What happened? You know, is it what value was it for Albert? If he doesn't get back with his love.
well, he had community
Mm-hmm.
and he had himself as a real person.
and he had the love of the community he built. He was more on the receiving end and able to receive from the people that he had allowed into his life over the course of the search,
Mhm.
than ever before, by the sounds of it.
And the
I just never thought he
opportunity.
was going to find him. I was totally thinking he was going to have to grieve. And I kind of kept thinking, what's the ending going to be really like? Because what if he doesn't find him? I never even thought, what if he doesn't get back together? Or what if they don't get back together? I just didn't think he was going to find him.
Yeah, I think if this had happened before George came out and had community, and he had been turned down, I mean, Albert, if he had then been turned down by George at the beginning of the book, I think it would have been devastating. I think he just would have just crumbled as a person. But by the end of the book, I think if he hadn't found George, or if George had, you know, had rebuffed him, I think he was going to be okay. I think he would have been okay by the end of the book. And I think that's the sort of the message of the book, you know, is the value of coming out, finding community, being a real person gives you the strength to go through whatever you have to go through.
Mhm.
Yeah, anytime you're going out and like you seek for something, you seek for a dream, or you push for something. And even if you don't make it, there's so many blessings along the way that you gather, that it's often worth the journey, even if you don't reach that pinnacle, right?
Mhm.
So many things to be learned there.
And I think the whole thing about chosen family is a big theme in this book as well. You know, his family, his biological family, was never really much of a comfort or support to him. You know, but Nicole and her child were, and then George, and even the people that he worked with that he thought were real homophobes, you know, that came around and just were almost
Yes.
embarrassed in terms of their, you know, their support for him. He ended up with a family after all. And a lot of us feel that way. You know, there was a minute in my life when I was totally alone. Just I was between that biological family and my whole life I'd known before and anything else. I was just out there by myself, you know, and then I described myself as literally just falling into the arms of that MCC church in Chicago, and they just saved my life. You know, and now I've got a family all over the world. No matter where I go, you know, I've got family all over the world now. And so chosen family, I think, is a big theme in this book as well, the importance of it.
Does this journey that he took, that Albert took, does that inspire you in some way?
Good question.
Make you think I can go out and do something or move forward with something?
My beautiful girl.
Turning 65 isn't all that old.
Better believe that. 69.
Yeah.
I can't even believe it, actually.
Well, I think already, in my case, I read the book a couple weeks ago, and I had this event yesterday, and the woman that I was supposed to go with canceled. And I thought, well, you know, it's going to be, parking's going to be complicated. I do walk with a cane now. And I called ahead to see if there was an elevator. There was. But I could have just decided not to go. And I thought, no, Cynthia, your small town doesn't have many events. And this is your community. And I got up and went. I found another person. And when I asked Colette to go with me, she said to me, she by the way, 7 years ago lost her partner of 40 years. And she said, as you know, I'm still working, so I don't feel lonesome or anything. But she said, Linda and I never went to anything like this politically. She said, I wouldn't even know this stuff existed. Thank you for inviting me. So you
Cool.
see, you know, it's still going on.
Isn't that
People,
cool? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny how when you reach out like that, like even
Yes.
Albert was reaching out, you impact other people's lives without even realizing you're doing it, right?
Mhm.
That's pretty cool. Well, what else? Because we are, as Ken noticed, backed up to time already.
This hour
o'clock.
flew by.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
did.
Other
I-
comments?
Oh, just the one thing I just really loved was him taking the writing the letters and delivering them to the one lady. I forget, I'm terrible with the names, but and I
Yes,
wondered,
yes.
and I just thought it was such a wonderful gesture. She was alone, and he just made, that's why his community was his postal route for so long, and he had impacted her life.
Mhm.
And I don't think she was surprised either when he really came out to her. But it was just so sweet. It was just such a sweet part of the book that kept going back to her and supporting her and giving her hope that's what started to make me think the whole thing was hopeless, that he wasn't. It was like setting up to fail in a sense, but I was very happy in the end. So, but I like that piece.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Carol, Rose, you guys were looking at each other. You have anything to add or?
I just want to thank you guys for reading this book. I mean, it was just so great. I really enjoyed it.
Me too.
Well, thank you, Kay, for,
Yeah, thank you, Kay.
it was a great book.
Welcome. Yes, very good choice.
So now what choices do we have? You guys bring some choices here. I know Ken has one.
Well, I just finished this amazing book that was referred to me. It's called The Choice. And it's by Dr. Egar, Egar. She's 90 now, but it's her memoir. And it's her journey through Auschwitz as a young girl, getting separated from her family and surviving and then it's her journey to becoming who she ends up to be, which is a professor at Stanford of psychology. And her healing process is really through some of her clients. And it's a page turner as well to the very end. It's a difficult read. It's not an easy read by any means, but the choice, it's just an amazing book. So I just had to return it to the library because it was due. And so I think I know it's Egar, Egar, but I can't remember what her first name is. I'm so bad with names. But even if it's not a book choice of the group, it's a phenomenal read.
Thank you. I wrote that one down.
Mm-hmm.
And what is yours, Ken?
Yeah, the book I was going to suggest is titled In Memoriam by Alice Wynne. And Amazon describes it as a haunting debut novel about two young men who fall in love during World War I, dazzling and wrenching, witty and wildly romantic, with echoes of Brideshead Revisited and Atonement. The reason that it's a historical novel, and I realized that in my education, somehow I never learned, I didn't know very much about World War I. I knew a lot about World War II. And even, the Peloponnesian Wars and ancient wars, but for somehow World War I, there's just things about it I just didn't even know. And this book, explains a lot of that, but it's this just amazing love story, at the same time. So it's a historical, romantic novel.
Okay, we got two. Any more?
Well, I'm just going to offer the one I just finished. It's by Mark Sullivan. It's Beneath the Scarlet Sky, and it's a story of from the Italian perspective of World War II, of Hitler's regime. But this young Pino, who's not even 18, ends up to be the driver. And that's a whole story unto itself, how he gets to be the driver for Hitler's general. And so he also becomes, his code name is Observer. And the story of the invasion of Italy and hearing about all of what was going on in all the other countries that were at war, but from the Italian perspective, it is a page turner too. And it's a love story, and it's a war story. It was an amazing two World War II stories that I read within 2 weeks, and I was like, oh my goodness me! But both phenomenally written, and at the very end, and I'm always skipping to the end, but I tried not to skip to the end because the author has all these notes about what really happened to these. It is based on a true story. It is a very true story, and what happens to the characters long past the war. It's just phenomenal. Fabulous read. Beneath the Scarlet Sky. Amazon, top 10 of Amazon's books for 2022.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And
Sounds
thank you, Kay, for
interesting.
she found your Dr. Egar, what was it? She put it in the chat, right?
Aaron Eva.
Okay.
Aaron Eva Agar.
Eve, yes, Erin. Oh my God, yes, Erin Eva. I could not think of her name. Oh
Erin
dear,
Eva
that's terrible.
Agar. Okay,
Yeah,
there you go.
it's a,
Thank you.
it's
Thanks,
just an
Kay.
incredible read.
All right. Are we ready to vote?
Oh, it's hard to vote.
What do you say? How many people would like to read The Choice?
I would.
Okay.
I would
One
say
for The Choice.
I think
I
I
would
would
say
like
for the
to too.
choice.
I think the book that I recommended is another male love story, and I think I would like to read something else before we do another one of
Okay.
those stories. So I think I would vote for The Choice too. It sounds really interesting.
Okay, we
It
have
does.
3 for The Choice.
What?
4
Can
for
you
The
tell me
Choice,
what
Grace.
the choice is again, real quick? I can't remember. I
Oh,
already
what the
forgot. I
book's
thought
about,
that was
Kelly?
Ken's.
Oh no, The Choice is a book about this woman. It's her memoir, and she goes through Auschwitz and how she gets through to go to
Oh, right.
It's just her life story basically. right?
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, in the latter years of her career, she was in Afghanistan motivating troops to have hope and to help them make choices. So the name of the book is very significant throughout.
Wow.
It's an incredible
We have-
read.
Carol and Rose, were you guys voting for that one or no?
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
actually, we will go with the Italian one. We're both Italian American.
Oh, you gotta
so-
read it. You
Oh,
gotta
okay.
read it. You gotta
So-
read it.
So you
You
like
will just
Elizabeth?
love, you will love Pino and Anna. You will love them because there's romance in there too, but it's, oh my God, it's just such a terrible, it page
Whatever you
turner.
choose is
But,
fine, but
yeah.
that would be our votes.
Yeah, they're all
Okay.
really great choices.
They're all great choices.
Right.
That's beneath
Kelly?
the Scarlet's the guy, the
Yeah.
Italian one.
Yeah.
So it is. I kind
Yeah.
of like that one. I like either one of those though, so I can't even vote. I'd
Okay.
have to vote both of
All
them.
right. Well, we have 1, 2, 3 for sure for The Choice. Where are you landing, Jane Ann? And 2 for Beneath the Scarlet Sky. What do you think, Jane Ann?
She's frozen.
I think I would say The Choice.
The
Beneath the
Choice?
Scarlet
Yeah.
Sky is by Mark Sullivan.
Mark Sullivan, yes.
Okay. All right.
We
we're
gotta
going
read
with
it
The
anyway.
Choice.
Yeah, I was gonna read both of them, so.
We can read them anyway. Yep.
Yeah, you
Okay.
guys gotta read Beneath,
I think we're
Rose
going-
and Carol, you gotta read Beneath the Scarlet Sky because
Okay.
you'll just love Italy. It just the descriptions, and it's the taking of Milan, right? It starts out having Milan being decimated, and these families are, oh, I don't want to tell you, but the leather guy ends up to be Ferragamo. Like it's an amazing read. You'll love it. You'll just love it.
Thank you for
Why don't
for
we
that.
do that one for August? Why don't we just
Yeah,
choose July?
Are we
and
meeting
August
in
right now?
July? Are we meeting in July?
Yeah, I think so.
What date?
That's a good question. Let me
Is
look
it
at the-
Tuesday the 20? I can't do Tuesday the 24th. No, Tuesday the 25th I can't do, but
But we're doing The Choice for the next one, right?
Yes, the
Yeah.
choice would be July's. Well,
Okay.
if we did the 18th, though, that only gives us 3 weeks to read it.
I read it in 4 days again. Like I was like up all night reading. But
We could do that, we could do the 18th, or if you wanted to be there, or we could do the 25th without Jane Ann, or we could wait and do it August 1st.
I
do
I
y'all
just can't
think?
do that. I just know I can't do the 25th already because I'm in Toronto for an event.
Well, let's do the first then.
Want to do
August
August 1st? Okay.
Yep. that
Let's
works.
Any
do
day
August
is fine.
1st.
Any day would be fine with us, so whatever you choose.
Are you guys good with August 1st?
Yes.
Good.
And then we could still do this other book Beneath the Starlit Sky, and we could do it on the 29th, and that would still give us 4 more weeks, because there's 5 Tuesdays.
5 weeks in August, yeah. I haven't, those are
5
my
Tuesdays.
probably best, other than the girl who wrote in Silk, those were my absolute best reads of the year so far. They were.
Oh, wow, what a recommendation. That's a huge
Yeah,
recommendation.
that is a high recommendation. Cool.
Yeah.
So August 29th will be Beneath the Scarlet Sky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So why don't we do that? We've got August 1st, The Choice, and August 29th, Beneath the Scarlet Sky. And then we will be completely, we will know everything we need to know about World War II, and then we will move on.
Ken,
Yeah, then I
Ken,
would
you'll
like for
really,
us to
you'll
read
really,
in memoriam.
you'll
Yes.
really, Ken will
Then
like,
we'll have to come back. Yeah,
Ken will
but
like
we
the
might have to
priest.
take a break and read something silly first and then come back to it. We'll see. Let's do these two if you guys are okay with that.
That's good.
All
Okay.
right. Cool.
The priest
you all.
of the cathedral in Milan. And you know, of course they were starting out, they were taking Jews over the border from Italy into Switzerland. I mean, it's an amazing read.
Mm.
I was so moved by both of them. And this one too, I sobbed at the end with Albert. I don't know. I just felt I was happy for him.
I thought it was fun because everything ended up happy. I hardly ever have
Yeah.
a happy ending
Yeah.
with these books, you know.
That's true.
Every once in a
That's
while
true.
you need to have. It might not be realistic, but I liked it anyway.
It seems like lately everybody doesn't, they think it's too unrealistic, so they don't make them have happy endings.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right. Well, thank you all very much.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.
Well, thank
Oh,
you.
thank you.
It was great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for the patience on the rough start. We still live in the woods.
Well, and you got storms. It's raining again, even as we speak. But
Oh, Janie,
Oh,
we trade
geez.
you. We pulled in after dinner tonight. We all went out for pizza tonight for special dinner. And when we pulled in tonight, it still was 100 degrees in the car. I mean,
Wow.
registered. This evening, 100 degrees. I mean, it's week 3.
Oh,
of
don't
this
worry.
summer.
It'll be 78 or 80 in the morning. It'll be fine at 6:30.
Yeah.
And plus,
Yeah,
I
you're
like
getting
it when
ready,
it's
you're getting ready
104.
to leave this. I have to stay.
you're gonna
Quit
you're gonna
griping.
drive it.
Really, we all have choices. Love y'all.
Yeah,
Be
can
well.
you
Bye-bye,
Okay.
everybody.
Take
Bye.
care.
Good night.
Cheryl,
Take
can
care.
you just send out
Bye.
Cheryl,
Love
just
y'all.
send out a text on the 2 dates, August 1 and August 29, right?